back. Welcome back. It is a Money Monday on Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. We're coming to you today live as we do every day, noon to 2 Eastern, from the Newsmax studios here in downtown Manhattan. Yes, we are still on Broadway. And right downtown from us at the New York Stock Exchange, we're enjoying another wonderful day to start this week off right. The money men are on the upside today with the Dow up over 100 points as we speak. Bitcoin is marginally up today, about $55 as we speak. And things are looking good on that front. Not so good on the Democratic presidential candidate front. And I'm joined again in studio, of course, with Frank Morano. And joining us to talk about this crazy plan from Elizabeth Warren to eliminate all private health care insurance is Grover Norquist. Grover, thank you so much for joining us today. He's the president of Americans for Tax Reform. And I really am looking forward to getting your take on this plan from Elizabeth Warren to eliminate private health care.
Well, the one thing you can be sure is that they will eliminate private health care, the health care you have now, your health insurance, and the vast majority of Americans have health insurance now. They promise that they'll replace it with something interesting. I don't know, Department of Motor Vehicles, Post Office, healthcare. But the cost is the shocker. Elizabeth Warren has spent the last several months denying she was going to raise taxes on the middle class. She still says she won't, but you do notice there's in the middle of this a $9 trillion, that's trillion with a T, $9 trillion tax increase, a wage tax, a tax on your wages. She says, oh, your company will pay it. Yeah, by not paying you that money, they'll give it to the government instead. It comes right out of your pocket. The idea that because your employer collects your income tax for you and gives it to the government, rather than you sending a check in every 2 weeks, that somehow your employer is paying your income taxes, that's the reasoning she's giving us. It's a massive body blow to middle-income Americans, as we knew it would be. And that's why she didn't want to face up and admit it.
So, Mr. Norquist, just so our viewers who may not like Donald Trump understand, if Elizabeth Warren's elected and if she is able to implement the kind of plan that she's proposed, what are they looking at in terms of tax increases? Forget about eliminating private health insurance. Forget about all the millions of people, literally, that work in the health insurance industry that are all of a sudden going to be looking for a new profession. But just in terms of everybody else, what are they looking forward to in terms of an increased tax bill? Sure.
The best model is Europe, which are the countries that have the kind of health care that Elizabeth Warren's talking about. These are not, ideas or fantasies. These are real-life countries, Sweden, France, Denmark. They start with a 20% value-added tax, a 20% sales tax. Whatever state sales tax you have, imagine if that was 20%. That's the opening bid. And then you have a much higher income tax rate on middle-income people. They don't tax high-income people that much differently than we do in the United States. The difference between the United States and Sweden or Denmark, or what they call social democratic countries with government-run healthcare and so on, is how high the income tax is on the middle-income family. And that's up 10, 20% higher in Europe than in the United States. So your income tax will go up, and the equivalent of a wage tax or a value-added tax will come in somewhere about 20%.
And this is also, Grover, this is also on top of Elizabeth Warren's plan to tax you on money that you've already paid tax on if you have it stored or saved in the bank, correct?
Right. She talks about a wealth tax. Wealth is simply your lifetime earnings, everything you've earned in your entire life that hasn't been taken away from you in taxes or that you haven't had to spend getting through the day. That's your accumulated lifetime savings. She calls it your wealth. She just thinks you lucked into it. She promises on day one she'll only tax, the Kennedy kids who have a lot of money. But as we know, when the personal income tax was put in the early 1900s, you had to make $11 million to pay the top rate of 7%. Now, most people watching this pay more than 7% now, and they don't have $11 million. That's because when politicians like Elizabeth Warren or Biden say that they're going to tax the rich, they haven't finished the sentence. The sentence runs, we're going to tax the rich first. then you, and then your grandchildren. And so any lifetime savings tax will begin with high-income people and move very quickly to middle-income people because that's where the cash is.
Mr. Norquist, let me ask you a little bit about a story we've been seeing quite a bit today and in the last couple of days, and that has to do with Kanye West's tax return. Kanye West bragged about getting a $68 million tax refund and thanked God for that tax refund. I had no idea God was moonlighting with the IRS, but apparently he is. Now, a lot of middle-class Americans are going to look at this and say, here's a guy with a net worth of about $240 million. Is that really the kind of person that should be getting a $68 million tax refund? Maybe somebody like Kanye should pay a little bit more so that middle class and working class folks can get a little bit more tax relief. What do you say to regular Americans who may not be in Kanye West's tax bracket?
Sure. First of all, if you have a large return, a large refund, it means you screwed up when you made your decision about how to do withholding. It says nothing about what your total tax bill is. You want a small refund because you don't want to be lending the government money for zero interest for any period of time. You want a small or almost no refund. So Kanye West made a mistake if he got a large refund. Secondly, when politicians say, like Elizabeth Warren, we're going to go after wealthy people, the kind of taxes they have damage your 401k, your individual retirement account. 100 million Americans have 401ks. 25 million Americans have an individual retirement account. Others have health savings accounts. Those are the first things that get damaged by taxes on accumulated income, on your savings. So they may step on your head and on your IRA or 401k and damage it, make it worth less when you retire, but they promise that they're standing on top of you and they're going to punch Kanye West or some wealthy person. Most Americans can see through this and realize that if you're going to be damaging people with a lot of money saved, you're hitting everybody who saves.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your insights. Really appreciate you taking some time out for us. Mr. Grover Norquist joins us today, and this guy is the president of Americans for Tax Reform, and they know where the bodies are buried and the rubber meets the road in deciphering and translating some of this gobbledygook. Thank you very much, Mr. Norquist.
Glad to be with you.
So we're going to take a quick break right now. We're going to come back and mix it up when Timmy Collins and Letitia Romero come in to talk about the top news stories of the day, a Democrat, a Republican, and I mix it up on Liquid Lunch right after this.